Hey guys, today there is no plan. Today I am recording this video, I'm editing this video, and I'm uploading this video. I'm not going to have any cuts because I want it to be as raw as it can possibly be. And the reason for that is I want to talk about why we do this. In general, what my specific reasons are for doing landscape photography and for falling in love with landscape photography. I've touched on it a little bit in my previous videos, but I deliberately haven't said much about it, just plain and simply because I believe it deserves a video of its own, and this is it. So why do we do it? Why do we go out? Why do we get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, chase a sunrise, get that feeling of elation when you do get it, and then come home, edit those images, post them up to feel the way that we feel? What makes us do it? Now, for me personally, just over a year ago, it was the 28th of March 2017, I walked out of a job that I believed was nailing me into a system that I didn't like. It was a general day-to-day kind of job. There was nothing wrong with the people that I worked with. It was just the job itself. I have never fitted into that conventional system, and I had to go. It was dragging me down mentally, like psychologically. I just felt so awful, and I just had to get out. And that was when, the day that I left that job, was the day that I started to take photography incredibly seriously. Now, I have got a past. I've got a past with drugs and alcohol. I am 6 years clean and sober, and I intend on staying that way. But that's not to say that I'm not dealing with the long-term effects of overindulging, if you will. I suffer very, very badly with anxiety. I suffer with panic attacks, and I don't know if there's a name for it, but I suffer with, it might even be delusion, I believe, or paranoia maybe, but sometimes I can work myself up to believe the most ridiculous things about myself. And that's what sets off my anxiety, which can set off a panic attack. But the reality is, it's all up here, it's all in my head. Now, the reason why I want to talk about anxiety predominantly is because of how many people suffer with it on a daily basis, and I am one of those people. I've got something, I can see it waving, there we go. Sorry if that's been annoying anybody for the last couple of minutes, but yeah, I suffer really, really badly with anxiety, to the point where I believe the most ridiculous things are happening to me. I don't know what sets it off. I've been dealing with it now and struggling with it for about 3 years. 3 years where it's been very, it's been a focus of my life of trying to avoid it. I have had it before. The first panic attack that I ever had was drug-induced, and to be honest with you, the mental health issues that I deal with on a daily basis now, like I said, they're probably just a long-term effect of my prolonged drug use and overindulgence in alcohol 6 years ago. It was a 10-year habit, but it's horrible. When it happens, it's horrible. And for anybody out there that knows what crippling anxiety feels like, or how it feels when you get a panic attack, or how alone you can feel when you have these ridiculous thoughts that ultimately have absolutely no bearing on reality whatsoever, I know exactly how you feel, and you are not alone. I mentioned in, I think it was the previous video, the Banners Gate video, that anything that I talk about in this video as being a cure, essentially, for anxiety, it's not a permanent thing. It can help you get through and get by, but I don't know what the permanent cure for anxiety is. I can go through very, very heavy bouts of depression as well. Like literally, for what seems like no apparent reason, I can just be sat on the sofa in my dressing gown, midday, just in tears. And I don't know why. I just feel so low and so down. Yeah, I can't explain how horrible it can make you feel, like on every single level. So the first thing that I can say helps me is I found something that completely takes my mind into what seems like another dimension. When I work on photography, or I work on music, or I have just something that I can focus my energy on, my anxiety doesn't exist. It exists as soon as my mind becomes unoccupied with anything else. So I can work all day long and not even think about anxiety, and then the second that I've finished working, I can sit down to relax, but I can't relax because my anxiety comes. So yeah, photography. I started doing photography, it's got to be about 1.5 years ago now. I've done it all my life. I really honestly have done it all my life, but I've never well, up until about 1.5 years ago, I didn't have a professional camera. I didn't have an entry-level DSLR or anything like that. It was always phone photography, or I was borrowing somebody else's camera. I knew absolutely nothing about the technical side of photography. I just took photos and I thought they looked good. So when I got a DSLR and I started to invest my time into learning how the camera worked, why things were used in certain ways, it became a passion for me. And not only did it become a passion for me, I was lucky enough to be involved with a group of people where 2 or 3 of those people also became passionately interested in photography at the same time. And I ended up taking photos for the company that I was working for. I took web images for them, just with a white background and whatnot. And then I started looking after their Instagram for them and things like that. And I just became more and more interested in it. And I became interested, to begin with, in studio photography, doing portraits and taking, like, setting up scenes to look how you want them. And I was doing it for my band. I was doing a photo shoot for, well, an old band now, but yeah. And I was setting up the studio and I was trying to get the lighting right and I was positioning everybody right. And then what I was actually doing was I was setting the camera on a 10-second timer, and then I was legging it to my position, standing still, waiting to hear the beep, and then going and checking it. And the guitar player that I was playing with at the time, he was heavily into photography, has been for a long time. His name's Dan Fenton, and he said that, you know, we started talking anyway because he was a new friend, new guitarist, that kind of thing. We were talking. He said that he loved doing landscape photography, and at the time, I was like, I don't get what's so interesting about landscape photography. I just couldn't get my head around it. I was like, oh, all this, you know, you're setting up all your lights and things like that, and you're getting it to look exactly how you want it. And I left it at that, basically. I was like, well, you know, you do what you enjoy doing, I'll carry on doing what I enjoy doing. And it was a few days later when I was driving home, and I had my camera on me because I'd been at work that day. I'd been in the office shooting some web images for the company. And I was driving home, and the sunset was just amazing. It was absolutely amazing. I would put a picture up now of that sunset, but I have another video planned for that image. So yeah, I just remember seeing it and thinking to myself, I really want to take a photo of that, you know. I didn't have anything in mind. I didn't have like an idea of what I wanted to do with the photo. All I could think was, I just really want to get a photo of that sunset. So I pulled the car up on the side of the A38, just outside Lichfield. If you're local, Lichfield is north of Birmingham, and the A38 going into Lichfield is actually quite a busy road, and I pulled off to one side, got out the car and took a photo. And a little bit further along my journey, on the A5, just after Muckley Corner, I looked again and thought, oh, that looks really cool as well. So I jumped out the car there and I took another photo there. And I remember getting those photos home. I remember getting them in the edit and to me, they just looked amazing. And at that point, I got it. Well, I think I got it anyway. I just sort of like, I thought, this is why Dan does landscape photography. This is why Dan loves landscape photography. These images are incredible. And I honestly thought that they were the best thing since sliced bread. That feeling that I got of, wow, I get it now. And you slowly learn, I think. I think if you have that kind of experience like I did, you slowly learn over a period of like a year, like I have, that the reasons for doing landscape photography, for me personally, completely changed over the course of a year. When I first got into photography and filmmaking, I was heavily into Peter McKinnon, who I'm sure a lot of you are also heavily into. The guy is fantastic. His teaching methods are absolutely brilliant. I just clicked. I was on a level with him. I understood what he was saying, and everything that he was posting about, I was like, yeah, that's really cool. I want to try that. And it's thanks to him that I'm progressing the way that I am progressing. And then when I suddenly realized, ooh, landscape photography, that's pretty cool. I like that. You know, I had these 2 photos that I was immensely proud of. The next thing was, you know, when I sent these photos to Dan, and Dan, you know, messaged me back saying, oh, well, if you're getting into it, check out Thomas Heaton, and the rest's history, basically. So, yeah, and it was at that point I was like, right, straight onto the missus. Come on, we're going to the Peak District, we'll take the dogs, I want to go and take some photos. And I took some more photos, and I really liked them as well. But again, at this point, I knew nothing about composition or anything. I was just taking photos and going, yeah, I think that looks cool. I didn't even know at that point like why you would use a long exposure photograph. I was literally just clicking and snapping and getting more photographs. But in my mind, I couldn't get a photograph to the same level as those first 2 that I took. So after about 6 months of learning as much as I could about landscape photography and trying to plan trips and buying gear and doing bits and bobs to help progress myself, it suddenly became apparent to me that the reason why I loved doing landscape photography was because it was something that I could do that would completely preoccupy my mind, and I didn't need anybody else to do it. All I needed was a tripod and a camera and filters and an L bracket and a shutter release and a lens, you know, preferably a telefocus and a wide. But either way, I didn't need another person to do it. I could just do it on my own. And when I was doing it, my mind wasn't on anything else. It was just solely concentrating on the light, the composition, what my camera settings were, what image I wanted to capture, and that was it. It was just solely based on that. And then when I get back, I'm still not thinking about it, because all I'm thinking about is I want to get those images. I want to get those images into the edit. I want to see what the final product's going to look like. And then as soon as I've finished them and I look at them and I post them and I'm really proud of them, the anxiety sets back in again. Now, I suppose in a sense you could call it a drug, just plain and simply because when you take the drug, you feel amazing and this, that, and the other, and then as soon as the drug's gone, you want it again. You know, I need the drug, I want the drug. But that feeling when you, I don't want to go into it too much, but the feeling you get when you first take a drug, you will never ever get that feeling ever again. And the reason why you do it again and again and again and again is because you don't get that same feeling, but you're chasing it, you want that same feeling. The thing with landscape photography is that every time I take an image that I'm immensely proud of, I feel the same as I did when I took that first image just off the A38. And that's why I do it. It keeps my mind occupied. And not only does it keep my mind occupied, the fact that you're out and about, in the fresh air, it's good for you. I remember I came back from Scotland last September. I'd just had a fantastic weekend away with three very close friends and Amy. We hired an RV and we drove up to Scotland. We wild camped at Loch Lomond in the RV for the first night, and then on the second day we drove up to Glen Nevis. We plugged in there and we camped for the night, and then the next day we drove back down to another campsite at Loch Lomond. And the day after that, we drove all the way back down. And we specifically went for landscape photography. That's why we went. And it was amazing. But at the same time, that was when I felt my lowest. I came back from that trip, and that was one of the times where 2 days later I found myself sat on the sofa in floods of tears, not knowing what was wrong with me. So I decided to do some research into anxiety and depression and find out. And one of the things that sticks out in my mind is I was watching a lady, and she said, if you're sat there and you're feeling anxious or you're feeling depressed, the best thing that you can do, if you do nothing else, just stand up. And the reason why she says that is because the second that you are sat down and you feel anxious or depressed, when you stand up, it changes your body chemistry straight away. And as soon as she said that, I literally sat there and went, right, screw this. I'm gonna go get changed, I'm gonna go and walk the dogs, and I'm gonna take my camera with me. And I did it. And when I got back, I didn't feel amazing, but I felt better. And I decided at that point that I was gonna go out every morning at 7 o'clock on the dot, and I was gonna walk the dogs every morning at 7 o'clock, just around the pond that's just down the back of my house. And I did it. I did it for about 6 months, and it worked. It felt incredible. There were some days I didn't even think about my anxiety. I'd suddenly realized like 3 days later, oh my God, I haven't even felt anxious or anything. It was amazing. And landscape photography gives me a reason now to go out and get active. Not only is it good for my mental health, but I get a bonus from it as well. I get to come back and I get to look at these images that I've taken, whether I love them or hate them, and just think, well, that's a product of me just getting up and going out. Whether I've gone down the road or if I've gone to the Lake District, it's a memento of being active and doing some good for yourself, which is what you need to do. So I don't really know if I can go on any further at this point, because I don't want this video to go on. I am just hoping that someone can relate, if you relate to anything that I've said. But what I am gonna say to finish this off is that life is too short, okay? There are people out there who are suffering with life-threatening diseases. And this is solely a message to myself and how I try to think about it. I know that mental health is just as important as your physical health. But there's an amazing video, I can't remember the guy's name, but I'll drop a link to it in the description to this video. And it's a guy doing a TEDx talk, and it's just called Why Aren't We Awesomer? And he ends the talk on, we are never more than one thought away from a completely different perspective on life. And the more time that I sit down dwelling on how I feel anxious or how I feel sad, the more it makes me feel like I've got to get up, I've got to go out, and I've got to spend my life doing more of the things that I want to do. And that's one of the reasons why I am so happy that I do not work for a system anymore and I can work for myself. Because it was just sucking the life out of me. I didn't like the idea that I was working 10 hours a day with a half an hour lunch break, busting my nut for peanuts, building someone else's dream, when I could be doing what I'm doing now. I take photos for people, I make music videos for people, I've got one coming out soon and it's absolutely awesome. And I can do it. It's what I want to do. I love doing it. I love stitching it all together. I love seeing the product at the end, and I have so much freedom. I'm not well off. I'm not a millionaire. I wouldn't even say it's to the point I have money. I'm going on holiday in August. It's the family holiday, and we have to save up to go. And a friend of mine is getting married in October, November, in Florida, and we've really had to cut back on things to be able to afford to go. But it's the fact that I'm going to Florida, I'm going to America, I've never been before. I'm going to see 2 of my closest friends get married, and we're gonna have an amazing time in Florida with like 6 of my closest friends in total. It's gonna be incredible. But we haven't just been able to go, yeah, that's fine, just get it, you know what I mean? But I don't even know where my next paycheck's coming from, and I'm so happy about it. Where I could be in a systemic job, right, I'm getting paid on the 28th of this month, and I would be miserable, absolutely miserable. So I'm going to end it there, guys, you know, because it's dragging on now. But yeah, I hope that somebody can relate to what I'm saying. I'm sorry there's no photos in this video, but I just wanted to do it. The people that have invested their time in me, watched my videos, subscribed to the channel, I just wanted to get a little bit more personal with you, give you the reasons why I do this, why I enjoy doing it. And maybe, I mean, if there are any subscribers that aren't into landscape photography, don't know why you'd be subscribed to this, but if there are, maybe it can even give you a, you know, not a push, but just like, take your phone out, see what you can do with it. I mean, on Samsungs now, I think you've actually got like a pro manual mode. I don't know, I'm an iPhone user, whatever. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, I really hope that somebody can relate to what I've been saying. But yeah, hit that like button if you liked it, hit subscribe if you want to see more. And apart from that, I will see you in the next video.